BK's final response to Shakka Atmos. Yeah, what's going on, party people in the place to be? I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York City, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's pop? Glad to see everybody. Let's say what's up to the party people in the chat. We got Tyler Lott. We got my man Amir. We got Bodega Lady D New on the check-in. We got Dwayne Brown. We got the real American Mr. Phil Fox. We got Lou in the building. You know what I mean? So, and as always, wait, what did I just do here? Okay. So, as always, I'm looking for my thing. Okay. If you have not yet already, please like, share, and subscribe. Share the link. Tell a friend to tell a friend that it's him again. And if you like how it goes down with the BK Apologists, you can show your love via PayPal. Or if you'd like to be a monthly supporter of BK, you could become a patron where you get an assortment of goodies to enhance your personal Bible study. So, of course, it's been a journey. It's been about a year of I can't call it a series, but it's been a year with me and this gentleman here discussing this individual that we'll be discussing today, perhaps for the final time. We shall see. Now, of course, I'm talking about the other half of the EPMD of urban apologetics, Mr. True ID, Adam Coleman. What's good, sir?
What's good, man? Just I'm sharing it right now, man, so people can check us out or whatnot. But yeah, I guess we could call this I don't know, maybe a fragmented series. Is that like a
Perhaps.
thing? Like you call it like a fragmented response, a protracted response to Shaka Atmos. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
And
sharing it to
we'll
my Facebook now.
cool. And we'll get into why this is the end. Though I will leave the open based on one condition, right? And we'll
Okay.
get into that later on. But it's not gonna be a long video, believe it or not. I know usually when you see me and Adam, it's a
I
lecture
don't. I don't
series.
believe it. I don't believe it at all, man. This is a 5 hour joint. You know what I mean?
No, it's not. It's not a.
It
Only
is
if you make
five.
it. Only if you make it. Only if you make it. Because I'm just gonna. We're gonna just look at a couple things that he said in the last few videos that he's done, and then from there we go into why this is probably gonna be the end of this fragmented series. So, with that being said, actually, you know what? Before we get into that, I mean, just Adam, just your overall feeling of what we've done, the back and forth that we've been having with this gentleman for the last year. What have you learned? What, how you feel? Do you think this was a good thing that we did? Did we overstay our welcome? Like, just some of your preliminary thoughts.
But no, man, I definitely don't think that we overstayed our welcome. I mean, I think that right now there's a lot of bad ideas, floating around in society in our community, and our job is to confront bad ideas and misinformation, if you will. That's what we do. It just so happens that one of the main purveyors of bad information and bad ideas in our community happens to be Shaka Abus. They say there's nothing personal, against him. And I think that, for what it's worth, I've enjoyed it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, just enjoy, I'm not like, we don't like picking on people or anything like that, but I
Right.
enjoy digging into important things and talking about it. You know what I'm saying? They're seeing where the evidence leads. That's what we do. And I think that there's really not a lot of places, on the internet or wherever, where you're going to get this kind of conversation from a Christian perspective, where Christians are taking the evidence seriously and, taking people's objections seriously and facing them head on. So I think that in so much as it just so happens that, we cross paths with Shaka Atmos and doing so, I think it's been a good thing, man. I think overall, now I think that, for whatever reason, He's tended to take pot shots and say very disrespectful things. I'm a kind of guy, like, I can really take a joke. Like we joke around all the time. Like, I
Right.
really don't mind
Right.
jokes, but sometimes I feel like he's crossed the line. I think he's become unhinged. And I think to anybody, maybe to his fans, like his super fans, like, I guess they don't really care because it's entertainment for them. But I think for anybody who just kind of sitting back, maybe they're a Christian, maybe they're not, maybe they're just somewhere in between, whatever, a Christian and whatever he would consider himself to be. I think people just sitting back objectively could be like, man, like, he's just really acting in a disrespectful way. He's not presenting himself as scholarly. He's not presenting himself as somebody who has a real command of the information that he claims to have
Right.
a grasp of, because people who do that don't feel the need to make ad hominem attacks, and they don't feel the need to retaliate, against other people for simply challenging their ideas. They're able to bring the evidence forth, present their case in a logical manner, and be persuasive. But in so much as he's unable to do that, it just seems like he's kind of resorted to some gutterball tactics. And if there's anything I regret, it would be that it's a shame to see a grown man act that way. I think that's what's really unfortunate.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna touch on a couple things he said in the last couple videos, and basically we're gonna surmise exactly one of the main issues he has and why he does what he does, and the reasons why chances are this will be the final time I'll be dealing with this. So, with that being said, um, one of the people that he's set his targets on as well is a good friend, Pastor Jerome Gay Jr. So he's been coming at all the pastors as well. He's been going at Dr. Mason, and here he goes with Jerome Gay, and he goes on in the video talking about Celsius and um what he said. This argument, this rhetorical argument he makes via this inventive conversation with this Jew speaking to Jesus, right? And what Shaka says about this to about Jerome Gay is that it gives us, first of all, it destroys the Christian lie that Pastor Gay was saying. But I showed you when he said they're getting this from zeitgeist. Are you saying that Celsius in the second century got the idea from zeitgeist? Because that's what you're saying, Pastor Jerome Gay Jr. So for some reason, Shaka believes that when Pastor Gay was speaking about they were getting this from zeitgeist, somehow he knew that in Pastor Jerome's brain, when he was saying they, he meant Celsius. Somehow Shaka knew that, right? So, which is an amazing insight to have when you know what's the inception of another man's thought before he speaks it. That's an amazing gift.
I mean, it is, but it isn't for Shaka Atmos, because Shaka Atmos has also made claims about the motivations of somebody like myself or Eric Mason or Jerome Gay or you, in terms of, we waited around until he wasn't on the scene to jump in and start doing urban apologetics. Like, somehow he's privy to all of our intentions, all the intents of our hearts are
This is
laid
true.
bare before Shaka Atmos. They all singing somehow. And it just, so this is just par for the course for him. He's Professor X. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? He's the Professor X of the Christian community. He's able to read minds and all that, apparently,
He
because this
has
is what he
he
does on
has
the regular.
cerebro in his
He's got cerebral, right,
and he
exactly.
just reads all the UA's minds, right?
This is what he does, right?
So
This light work for him.
pretty much. But if you really want to know if what when someone uses the word they, and you would like for them to specify who they mean by they, a really great technique to use is to actually ask them what they mean when they say they, which I decided to do. I spoke to the good pastor, and I said if it's okay for me to show our chat. He said yes, and I asked him when you said in your video that quote they are getting it from zeitgeist unquote. Who are the quote unquote they you were referring to? Pastor responds, "Hey, bro, I was responding to certain members of the conscious community that have quoted the zeitgeist script almost verbatim. They mentioned and Anoop the baptizer and said that Jesus was a carbon copy of Horus, which is false. So the they that I'm referring to is not Celsius, whose I don't mention. So to infer that when I never said it is deceptive, but rather members of the conscious community that have quoted a historically inaccurate clip. Now you see how simple that is? If you're not sure when someone says they or those people, all you have to do is ask the person, hey, when you said they, who did you mean? As opposed to just assuming he was talking about a dissenter of the Christian faith that existed in the late second century.
Yeah, and I think even if you're gonna be, if I want to get like kind of steel man, Shaka's point here. So just to clarify, like when you make a straw man argument, it's like you're trying to create like a super weak version of somebody's argument in order to tear it down and then kind of claim the victory over it. The steel man argument is the exact opposite, where you try to strengthen somebody's claim as best you can and then tear that down. That's kind of how that works. You try to argue against the best version of what they're trying to claim. Now, if I want to try to steel man, Shaka's point, which I think I'm being really charitable, but I'm just going to do it anyway. I would say that, okay, first of all, nobody, whether it be Jerome or myself or anybody in the UA, is claiming that the first time somebody made claims about Jesus being a myth or copycatted from this or from that was when Zeitgeist brought on the scene. We're not saying that's the only place where claims like that came into play and people were just getting everything from Zeitgeist. Obviously, prior to Zeitgeist, there were people who were making claims that Jesus was a myth and copycatted from this or from that, including you're going back as far as somebody named Celsius. Obviously we're not saying that Celsius got it from Zeitgeist. That's obviously silly. But that being said, that doesn't do anything to substantiate the claims of these mythicists. Whether it be Celsius in the second century or Shaka Ahmose today. In neither case, just by saying these ideas have been around, does that do anything to substantiate the claim that it is the case that Jesus was a myth? That's number one. Number two, it could be the case. It's logically, it's obviously possible for somebody like a Celsius or Gerald Massey or whoever to have had these ideas about mythicism, yet still the people that we're interacting with today are drawing it from Zeitgeist. And I suspect that that's generally the case. I think that what you're finding is that people caught on to Zeitgeist. And I think by Zeitgeist, it's obviously not just like that one documentary specifically. I think I can say, at least for myself, because he tried to get at me on the same thing. We talk about Zeitgeist, we're really talking about modern, like poor modern scholarship. That's really what we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, that genre of pseudo scholarship, obviously people can draw from that and be totally unaware of what Celsius was talking about. But the bottom line is, regardless of where people are getting it from, I think what Shaka is not understanding is that from somebody like myself, at the end of the day, it's all pseudo anyway. It was wrong when Celsius said it, and it was historically untenable when Celsius put it on the table, and it's historically untenable when the Zeitgeist guy put it on the table. It was in his documentary, and it's historically untenable when Shaka Ahmose, continues to perpetuate the same stuff, because he'll say, "Oh no, we don't get it from Zeitgeist. We don't get it from Zeitgeist," and then either him or his OGs will say something straight out off the script of Zeitgeist.
Right.
So
Right.
it's comical, man. But I just kind of want to throw that out there.
No, that's great. And again, all he had to do was ask. If he wasn't sure who Jerome Gay meant when he said they, he could have did what I did. He'd be like, "Hey, bro, I saw this video. You make mention of a day. I was just curious to who you're referring to when you said they," and he would have told you. But there's a reason why you didn't ask, and we'll get into that later on. So
Yeah.
then he goes on to talk about Alvin Boyd Kuhn, and in the 1 hour 35 minute mark, he says the thing about Alvin Boyd Kuhn is that he graduated with a PhD from Columbia University, which is literally a 5 minute walk from my house. I pass it almost every day. Okay, so that's important to know. Not only did he graduate with his PhD from Columbia University, he graduated with it in theosophy. And it's a funny story, kind of because there was no one there who knew enough to grade his paper. to say whether he gave him the PhD, he got it. He knew more about the subject matter than the people that that were grading him. So according to Shakka, Alvin Boyd Kuhn got a PhD. He got a doctorate in theosophy, and it was basically self-given because the university couldn't, they were of lower caliber than Mr. Kuhn when it came to the subject matter. So he basically kind of created his own PhD program for himself
Man,
because
where's
no
that
one
program? I would love
knew,
to do that. Yeah, let me do that.
right? Because no one knew the subject
Right.
matter better than Mr. Kuhn, right? So he basically gave himself a PhD, and Columbia said, "Sure, why not?" Right? So,
Right.
here's a paper. It's called Alvin Boyd Kuhn, PhD, a biographical sketch of his life and work by Richard Alvin Saddleberg. All right. So he says Alvin eventually taught for 25 years. He was allowed to attend Columbia University summer sessions in 1926 and 1927, resigning from his position at John Harris High School in June 1927. He entered Columbia University the following September to study philosophy,
Interesting.
securing the coveted PhD degree in 1931. What degree would that be in, Adam? What did he go there to study?
I get. Oh, I'm sorry. I had myself muted. It sounds like philosophy to me.
Right. He went to study philosophy, securing the coveted PhD degree in 1931.
Right.
But let's continue. Dr. Kuhn's first book, Theosophy, was published in New York in 1930 by Henry Holt and Company. In later years, Dr. Kuhn wrote of it as follows. So here's a quote from Mr. Kuhn himself. Quote, "Yes, my book, Pages on Theosophy, a modern revival of the ancient wisdom, was my PhD thesis at Columbia
Mm-hmm.
University. The first and only time that any modern university in Europe or America has ever permitted anyone to win the degree with a thesis on theosophy. It is, in a way, quite a distinction." Now, Shaka said he got his degree in theosophy,
Yeah. Wow.
but Mr. Kuhn actually begs to differ because he says he got a degree in philosophy and he got it by writing a thesis on theosophy.
Wow. Well, yeah, it's some misinformation. I guess it's kind of Shaka's own retelling of history here, but it's kind of strange to me because I can't imagine. In order to have like a doctorate in theosophy, like you would have to attend somewhere that they have like a school of theosophy or something like that. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like some sort of concentration like that. I
But
can't imagine anybody having.
according to him, there is no school. He was the school.
Right? Yeah, he just did what he wanted. Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
And the other PhDs, in the school were just so enthralled and in awe of this man's mental prowess in the subject matter. They had no choice but to bestow him a doctorate because they had no clue what he was talking about because he was just so highly advanced than they were.
Now, see, here's what's interesting too, because so here's the thing, and this is why it's sounding real suspect to me. Because if you understand the doctoral process, you would probably have some sort of doctoral what's the word I'm looking for? The word is escaping me now and I'm trying to describe it. But basically you have somebody who's overseeing your doctoral process. They're following up on you as you're doing your research. They're checking in with you as you finish this chapter or that chapter of your thesis. Like you have somebody who's going to be overseeing that process. And then at the end of that process, you're going to be presenting that thesis to like a board of those who are going to be reviewing it. You're going to have to defend it and defend the claims that you made and stuff like that. Now, I said all that to say, let's say for some reason, the person who's overseeing this process and the board of people who are going to read and scrutinize this paper, let's say that they're totally unfamiliar with theosophy and whatever ancient wisdom sources that that Alvin Boyd Kuhn was bringing to the table. Even if that were true, he's still going to have to provide a biography. I mean, a bibliography. He's going to have to provide his sources like up front at that. I'm saying more than likely, and there's gonna be this list of sources that if somebody had a question, they could easily review it. You're saying they'd be like, well, Dad, you cited such and such here, and what's up with that? Or so they'd be able to examine the sources, his use of sources. Number two, I mean, if you got a philosophy degree, then even if they're not familiar with the material, they're going to be able to scrutinize like whether his claims logically follow, whether the argument that he makes is sound in this point or that point. If he cites some piece of ancient wisdom or something like that, and it's like philosophically unsound, they're going to be able to challenge him on that. So given that you have people who are checking the sources, you're going to have somebody who's going to have access to these sources the whole way through the whatever Alvin Boyd Kuhn is using, and people who are adept at philosophy who are going to be able to break down, even if they don't know the material historically, they can still break down the claims being made. It's just highly unlikely that they're just going to give this guy a degree because they're so unaware of this material that he's bringing to the table. That's just not how the doctoral process works. You see what I'm saying? Right. Okay, yeah, Shiny Mills making a point here. I don't know if you want to read that or not, but
Yeah, I have a what's that a MSc and had to write and defend my thesis in order to graduate. So I knew that was more larky when I heard it.
right, yeah, nobody's giving you a degree, and that's exactly right. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to write if you're going to write the thesis, you got to defend it as well. Like nobody's going to be like, oh, okay, we just got this big bulk of paper here, and all right, we just let you slide like that. Like that literally doesn't happen. Like this, it just doesn't happen that way. You know what I'm saying? Even if they're unfamiliar with the argument or materials being presented, there's still some level of scrutiny that they're going to have.
Right.
And if they can't decipher, they're not just going to be like, all right, cool, we'll just let you slide. That's ridiculous. That's utterly ridiculous.
Absolutely. And then from there, he slides into, again, another talking point we've seen before about how the resurrection is a complete ripoff of, the Egyptian belief system. So I'm just going to run through these quotes. You guys have seen this before, but just want to be on record saying it again. So here we go. This is from the Encyclopedia of Religion, Jonathan Z. Smith. Osiris was considered to be the mythical prototype for the distinctive Egyptian process of mummification. Icon- Iconographically, that Osiris is always depicted in mummified form. The descriptions of the recovery and rejoining of the pieces of his body are all elaborate parallels to funeral rituals, the virgil over his corpse, the hymns of lamentation, the embalmment, usually performed by Anubis, the washing and purification of the corpse, the undertaking of the elaborate ritual of the quote opening of the mouth with its 107 separate operations, as well as other procedures for reanimation, the dressing of the body, and the pouring out of libations. Right here, we can end. This does not sound like the death and burial and resurrection of Jesus.
You're like not even close, bro.
We good night. We're done, right?
Right.
But let's continue. Um, Through these parallels, the individual Egyptian dead becomes identified with and addressed as Osiris, perhaps earliest in Pyramid Text 167a to 168a. The myth and ritual of Osiris emphasizes the message that there is life for the dead, although it is of a different character than that of the living. Let me say it again, that there is life for the dead, although it is of a different character than that of the living. What is to be feared is dying a second time in the realm of the dead. Book of Going Forth by Day 175 to 176. He did not return to his former mode of existence, but rather journeyed to the underworld where he became the powerful lord of the dead. In no sense can Osiris be said to have, quote, risen, in the sense required by the dying and rising pattern. Most certainly, it was never conceived as an annual event. The repeated formula, quote, rise up, you have not died, whether applied to Osiris or a citizen of Egypt, signaled a new permanent life in the realm of the dead. They didn't come back to earth. They were reanimated in the realm of the dead. Osiris is a powerful god of the potent dead. In no sense can the dramatic myth of his death and reanimation be harmonized to the pattern of dying and rising gods. It's not there, it's not in the text. There is no parallels between Jesus and his resurrection and Osiris and his reanimation. There is a stark difference. And I don't know how many times we've
Yeah.
said this, but here we are again, Adam.
Well, yeah, man. And see, here's the thing, too. So, number one, there's the widest possible difference between what we see described here with Osiris and obviously with Jesus. To your point, Osiris goes on to live in the underworld, in the realm of the dead. Whereas Jesus, the claim is that he rose bodily from the dead, like in this life. He rose physically on earth, I'm saying bodily, from the dead. But then there's a broader point too, though, because when there's this deep tradition, in Jewish thought prior to Jesus showing up, that you don't just have people dying and then going on to live, in some like otherly world or something like that, but they anticipated a final resurrection. Like that wasn't like something that just came on the scene when Jesus showed up, and then all of a sudden he proposed a new idea. So ideas about resurrection, that wasn't anything that Jesus kind of pulled out of thin air. But what was radical is that he's saying like, no, the resurrection is like I am the resurrection, and let me show you. Let me raise Lazarus from the dead. Let me show you 3 days later after I've been on the cross, I'm gonna raise from the dead. Like that was radical. I'm saying that the concept of somebody rising prior to that final resurrection that the Jews were anticipating. So fundamentally, Jews and Egyptians had very different ideas about the afterlife. I'm saying the Egyptian was anticipating, if I guess if their hearts weighed out, that they would be able to go on in the realm of the dead with Osiris. And the Jew is like, nah, like, we're anticipating what I've heard N.T. Wright refer to as life after death. What I'm saying? There's going to be this unembodied state of some sort. And then at the final resurrection, we're, physically present here in the earth realm. That's what the Jew would have been looking forward to. So it's just fundamentally different ideas about what happens after you die, basically. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right. And that's basically it, right? From the most recent videos that I just wanted to share. And if you guys have been tracking with us for the last year, with me, Adam, and MJ dealing with Shaka, you've noticed a pattern with him, right? And because most of the time, what me and Adam and MJ do is simply look at the same sources that he uses, read maybe a page or a chapter later, and we see that the point that he's trying to make with that book or article actually refutes his point. But why does that occur with him so much? Right? It's not that he doesn't know how to
Good
read.
question.
It's not that he doesn't have the books. I believe he does. So what is it? What's lurking behind him that we see this pattern? And we can say that it's a pattern because we have a large enough sample size. Like I said, we've been doing videos about this guy for a year. So we have a large enough sample size to come to a particular conclusion. And it's pretty much this. This is from The Case for Motivated Reasoning. This is from the Psychological Bulletin of Princeton University by Ziva Kunda. It says here it is proposed that motivation may affect reasoning through reliance on a biased set of cognitive processes. That is, strategies for accessing, constructing, and evaluating beliefs. The motivation to be accurate enhances use of those beliefs and strategies that are considered most appropriate. Whereas the motivation to arrive at a particular conclusion enhances use of those that are considered most likely to yield that desired conclusion. There is considerable evidence that people are more likely to arrive at conclusions that they want to arrive at, but their ability to do so is constrained by their ability to construct seemingly reasonable justifications for these conclusions. These ideas can account for a wide variety of research concerned with motivated reasoning. Motivated reasoning is just a way of really talking about confirmation bias. And what we've seen over the year dealing with Shaka is that he has a crippling confirmation bias that injures his ability to look at things from an unbiased and accurate perspective. It's not that he doesn't know how to read, it's not that he lacks reading comprehension, but basically, his entire argumentation is he is a walking sharpshooter fallacy. Okay, this is the issue with Shaka. There's a point that he wants to make. He makes the point first, then finds whatever data he can find to make the bullseye around the arrow that he shot into the barn. Because usually you put the bullseye first, and then you make an attempt to shoot the arrow into the bullseye. He starts with the arrow in the wall first, and this is what happens. So because he's not, his motivation isn't to be accurate. His motivation is to defeat us, right? It's not about
Right.
truth for him. It's about getting a victory.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter how he gets it, as long as he and those that support him feel as if he has garnered a victory against us.
Yeah. Facts. Facts.
This is
I
the
mean,
issue.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
I'm gonna keep
yeah.
it real. Like honestly, I think, and I've said this a couple of times. I'll say it publicly. You know that I think whether it be Shaka or some of these other guys in the conscious community, in my experience, I think they really don't know what to do with a real Christian. I'm saying, and I'm gonna tell you why is because I think when it comes to them, when you have like, Moors against Comedics or Comedics against Hebrew Israelites or whatever. I mean, they go at it, but I'm gonna kind of pull an old school card here, but if anybody remembers back in the day where you had like the sheepdog versus the wily coyote, where they would go at it real tough, but then they would like check out at the end of the,
Right,
they
right,
were like, all
right.
right, Sam, good evening, all right, Frank, you know what I mean? They checking on the clock on the tree. It's kind of like that, I think, for a lot of these guys. I'm saying they got their own side hustle, they trying to get that money, and in the meantime, they battle it out, but it's like WWE. But then when you come across a real Christian, I'm saying like, one of the cats from the UA, and you can tell like, okay, this guy's not on side of it because he wants to make a name for himself. They're not on here because they're trying to get some money. You know what I mean? Like we're looking into their Facebook page and they're actually doing what they're saying. Eric Mason is actually, he actually has this boxing program and after school programs and so on and so forth. Everything that we complain the church is not doing, Eric Mason is doing. Jerome Gay is having community days. You can see it all up and down his Facebook page. When they have the community days, like these cats are actually doing what they're talking about.
Right.
Like when they come across stuff like that, and it's like, no, we're not trying to make a name for ourselves. We're here because we believe we're standing in a place of affirmation that Jesus is Lord, and we really believe that it has eternal and right now consequences. So it's not a game. Like this is not Wile E. Coyote versus the sheepdog. That's not what this is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like if whether I have a platform or not, I'm put it this way, BK, if you never saw Shaka Ahmose video a day in your life, and you just walking down 125th and you hear him talking that stuff, and you had the opportunity to witness to him out of a Christ-like compassion, I know for a fact that you would do it.
Right.
I'm saying because this is really what we're about. Like this is not made up. I'm saying it's not a game. This is not about YouTube likes and views or none of that. On or off camera, we're going to bring that gospel.
Right.
And so I think that the reality of that is disconcerting, for people in the conscious community, because it's like, oh snap, like this is a different animal here. Like, and on top of that, they're not dumb. Like we've been told, Sinetta and them, or I won't put Sinetta's name in it, but people on Sinetta's platform have been telling us for years that these Christians are dumb and don't know anything outside the Bible. They don't know their own Bible. All they're going to do is hit you with the Bible, and that they don't even know, and blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, we start encountering Christians who aren't like that. These cats is hopping on the channel, the channels that we watch. I'm talking about the conscious community channels that we watch, and they're holding their own. They're bringing facts. They're not just saying the Bible says, therefore we believe it. Although I think it's perfectly sufficient to affirm the Bible and leave it at that. But they're bringing facts from outside the Bible. They're doing all this kind of stuff. It's like, oh, snap. this is different. It's not supposed to go this way. We're supposed to beat up on them and send them packing, but that's not what's happening. And I think at the end of the day, I mean, let's be real. Like, if you left out the church house, and I've said this several times, I'm gonna keep saying it. But if you leave out the church house under the mistaken belief that zeitgeist was accurate, and Jesus was made up, and then all of a sudden BK shows up with a billion thousand receipts and slides illustrating to you that, no, wait a minute, there's some historical evidence here. Wait a minute, this worldview is rationally coherent. I might have messed up. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty weighty right there. And people, of course, are going to buck against it, because now you got to be like, dang, there's this Jesus who's been watching me this whole time, and I've been wild by his moral standard.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'm just saying,
Yeah. But again, right? So that's the issue, and not just Shaka, but for many people who are going against Christianity and the gospel.
Right.
People think they're going against the UA. It's not about the UA. It's about the gospel. It's about Jesus. You're going against Jesus.
Right.
Right. But it's not, you're not tackling it with, well, let me see where the data takes me. That's not the conviction that many of these people have. It's, I don't like it. I need Christianity not to be true. Not that through my various research and study, I've come to this conclusion based on these evidences that Christianity is not true. That's not what's happening. They start with the point, Christianity is not true. Let me find anything that corroborates that point. Motivated reasoning. Right. And another reason why I'm pretty much done. I'm gonna be really honest. I have an issue being called a liar. We've been called liars by this man for the last year, right? And he started this very short-lived series of Christian urban apologists and the lies that they tell.
Very short-lived.
It was an intro in one episode, and honestly, the reason why he got one episode in is because it's supposed to me. Adam wanted to deal with the intro video. I'm like, nah, let him rock for a minute. Let's see what he got to say.
You did, yeah, you did. Just we said, right?
Adam was ready. So, but this thing about lying, and I've shared this a billion times, and I got to keep sharing it because people don't seem to understand. These are the things that have to take place in order for you to say someone is a liar. First, lying requires that a person make a statement. Second, lying requires that the person believe the statement to be false. That is, lying requires that the statement be untruthful. Third, lying requires that the untruthful statement be made to another person. And fourth, lying requires that that person intend that other person believe the untruthful statement to be true. This is what has to occur. I have to say something that's not true. I have to already know that what I'm about to say is not true. And I say it to someone else, hoping that they believe that it is true. That's a liar. But in order for you to know that I'm a liar, or for anyone to be a liar, you got to know their intent. How does this man know our intent? And it's very disrespectful for you to do a whole series on a community of people and just do this blanket statement saying that we are all liars, that we are purposely deceiving people.
It's so ridiculous, bro. Right.
But what makes it more ridiculous, he's had the opportunity to know me. I've been on this channel on record saying, listen, we both live in New York. I'm like 45 minutes away from you on the D train. Let's sit down, have a cup of coffee, and find out who BK really is. Let's talk.
That'd be dope.
I've offered that. He doesn't want to do that. So that means it's more important for you to believe in your mind that I'm a liar than to find out if that's true or not. So that says a lot about him. And I mean, off the rip, he's been disrespectful to us. But
Yeah, he's been that disrespectful. Yeah.
we've overlooked the offense because we wanted to use this as a teaching moment for the community. But after a year of teaching moments, I'm done.
There's a lot of teaching moments, man. We've had a lot of teaching moments over this last year, dog. We've had a lot of teaching
A
moments.
lot of teaching
You know what I'm
moments, and I
saying?
feel like people have been
Yeah.
edified, and it's been great because it also forced me to not just defend the gospel against these accusations, but I took it a step further and said, well, why do they even have these accusations? Where they're coming from? What's the origin? What's the mind state? And I found some amazing things about that, you know. And
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, and this is somewhat selfish on my part, but I'm just being real. Like part of my thing with him is like I just think that the kind of stuff that he's bringing to the table is boring. You know what I'm saying? Like when it gets into like the mudslinging type stuff and just really poor argumentation that you're not even taking time to source out and things like that. The reality is I just think that our community is like we owe the community more than it. And honestly, I said this in when I sat down with him for that dialogue on Garfield's channel. It was like they like for the life of me, man. Like they wanted to do the whole Jesus versus Horus thing, and I'm like, man, like how many times do we have to do that same argument? Like it's dead, bro. Like it's the evidence is not there. Nobody agrees with you in academia. Like talk about, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just not like why are we like it doesn't have to be the case that every dialogue between a Christian and a Kemetic or whatever has to be Jesus versus Horus. Like I just think that like intellectually is just beneath us as a community at this point. And if there's been any doubt, goodness gracious, just look at the debate between David Richardson and Richard Carrier. Richard Carrier died like 3 times in that debate. Like David bodied that man. Like it's dead. So why are we even doing that? So it's like if you're still bringing the same stuff, you know what I mean, and you're still bringing just this bootleg argumentation. I'm just like, man, we gotta do better, man. You know what I'm saying let's not waste time on foolishness. Because to me, if you're not taking your time to think these things through rigorously, then you're not really that serious about it. Obviously,
right.
you don't believe it yourself if you're not even taking the time to make a solid argument as you can. And he can't possibly be doing it. It seems to me like it's just a bunch of views and stuff. So I'm like, man, I'm just not doing that no more, man. Like we're not wasting time on silly stuff. I'm saying we're moving on to
Right.
things that are substantive. If he brings up something that's a substantive argument, then I'm more than willing to engage it. I mean that's cool, but you gotta stop with all the name calling and just rehashing the same bad argument 50 times, Joe. We got to cut that out, man. We
No,
got to cut that out.
absolutely. But here's the thing. I got no. If you want to say I'm wrong, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I'm fine with that. Now, of course, I don't like hearing that. I'm a human. I don't like to be called stupid, but that's fine. If you think I'm stupid, that's fine. What I have an issue with is for you to say that I'm a liar, because once you do that, we leave the academic ring.
Oh
This is
yeah, it's
something.
facts.
This is
Right, right,
something else now, because
right.
now you're going at my character, right? Jesus and Horus, that's
Yeah,
one thing. But for you to say that me as a person, that you know my heart and that I am willingly out here deceiving people when you do not know me
right.
or
I mean,
Adam or any of us.
I gotta say this, man, and I, maybe you can edit this out later if you want to. I'm gonna say it, man, and I'm not. I don't think any of us should like desire a pat on the back for this or whatever, but like let's just keep it real, bro. We know that every 2 seconds, the major figures in the conscious community are at war with one another.
Right,
They do this all the time. I'm
right,
saying that it's this person beefing with that person beefing with that person. They do
right.
it all the time. And in the midst of doing that, they air out some really ugly details about their personal lives.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
oh yeah,
Allegations being thrown around.
oh
I'm
yeah.
saying made public. People's legal records. And, you
Yep,
know what I'm saying? Their paperwork being displayed for the YouTube world to see.
yep.
Sexual allegations of molestation, and all these kind of things circulating in the conscious community. So I said it to say, if we was really trying to be grimy, then we could literally sit back and do 8 hours right now on just the sordid activities that are reportedly going on amongst certain individuals in the conscious community.
Facts.
But you don't see that from the UA. You're not going to tune into the UA and see a bodega night, for example, on Friday night. You're not going to see a whole bodega on baseless allegations against XYZ person. Then you're not going to tune into True ID and see some sort of 4-hour expose on some unfounded allegations or yet to be founded allegations on this or that conscious community person. We don't do that. When you make a substantive claim, we refute that claim. That's what we do. We keep it on the information. Keep it on wax. You know what I mean?
Keep it wrapped.
Really all we
keep it wrapped.
Keep
it wrapped.
That's all we asking for in return. Like, they don't conjure up, something about lying and all this kind of stuff. Like why? I'm saying if I make a public statement, you critique me publicly and you prove me wrong, good for you. That's where we need to be at. Right. That's what it needs to look like. All this other stuff is silly, man. Like all this he said, she said, and these people's liars and ad hominems, and they can't see me on their best day. And all. it's just, man, please, man. It's silly, bro.
And look, it's not just that side.
Come on,
Christians need to be careful too. We can't be throwing around the word liar like it's,
Yes, I agree. Absolutely.
It's so disrespectful. It's so, and we let it rock. We let this dude rock, calling us all sorts of craziness.
I mean, you say it for a year. I feel like it's been longer than that, though, bro. I feel
I was looking at the videos. I think it's been just a year. Maybe it's more.
Okay, all right, maybe so.
What's up,
brother?
Garfield?
I see Brother Garfield in the chat. Garfield, I guarantee he can attest to what I just said. He might have to play it back to hear the whole thing, but he can attest to it. You don't see Christians, people from the UA, from the urban apologetics community, sitting around just basically bashing people from the conscious community. We don't do that. We don't sit around calling these people liars and this person alligator. It's like, this is not like Wendy Williams over here. But I feel like when it comes to Shakka, it's like some Wendy Williams type stuff. It's like a bunch of ad hominems and a bunch of liars, and it's like for what? For what? You know what I mean? It's I don't know, man. It is what it is, man.
CMB battle rap apologetic, Shakka versus BK in the cipher. Yeah, he don't want that either. Actually, to be honest.
Oh snap! Oh,
it might go worse for him. It might go worse for him in that arena.
You don't want the bars, bro.
You don't want the bars either. You don't want the bars either.
Do that, man.
And it's not that I'm top 5. I've heard the man spit. It's yeah.
Oh snap!
I would. That's not a problem.
He's Eric Sermon, bro.
Don't start.
Use this in Eric Sermon, man. I had to bring it up.
But yeah. So it's like the whole line. It's just. And then even recently, and Garfield just replayed. Zion said that I smoke K2 in front of the bodega and I eat pork.
Wait, who said that?
Zion Lex. That us bodega people need to go and get off the bodega and take his Hebrew class and blase. And I'm like,
let me address that right quick, because Zion Lex has been in the air. Like, he's been on Vocab's channel. Vocab has been posting videos about Zion Lex. You know what I'm saying? That he's cut up from us. Here's the thing, man. Like, I believe that Zion Lex has a good possession of the Hebrew. I don't question that at all. He seems to really know Hebrew.
Yes,
really well. Certainly far better than I do. There's no doubt about that. I'm saying, but I think if we're going to be intellectually honest, like, notice how I have no problem saying that. Like, that's no slight at all. That's perfectly fine. But the reality is, what I would challenge him to do is to think more critically. It's not just about knowing the language. It's being able to connect the dots between different claims or different facts in a logical way. And I think that's where the real struggle is. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, we don't have to get into this right now. Maybe that'll just have to be a whole other video.
Oh, yeah,
the whole claim about Elohim. However, I'm all nervous about how to pronounce it, because I know he's going to make an issue out of that. You know what I mean? Oh, he pronounced it such and such a way, and he's going to put like an explosion sound in the background.
But right.
Come on, man. It's like, here's the thing, man. Like,
the explosion, drop a bomb.
Yeah, he does like a bomb explosion like every 5 seconds. You know what I mean? But maybe it's on a timer or something. But let me just be clear on why I bring this up. Like, even with Zion Lex, like, there's nothing personal. Like, I can't think of anybody in the conscious community that I have an issue with personally.
Right.
I'm saying, like, I could go to New York. I could drive to New York right now and get a beef patty with any of them dudes and have a great conversation. Like, it's nothing personal. It's just that when you say something that's false, I don't like people peddling false information to the Black community that God has sovereignly put me in. That's, you know what I mean? And I believe that we ought to contend against deception at all times, ultimately for the glory of God and to promote the gospel. I'm unashamed in saying that. And so it's nothing personal, man. Like Caspi is
It's
getting
not. But
like,
I
dang, bro.
just don't see the correlation between my alleged synthetic weed addiction and the word Elohim. Like I don't see the connection. I really
Right.
don't.
What is that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if he wanted to make a rebuttal and be like, yo, BK, you're wrong because of dot dot dot, perfectly fine. What's up with the
Right.
K2 addiction thing? What is
And
that?
listen,
Man,
he's
it's
from
crazy,
Brooklyn. I'm
man.
from Brooklyn. There's gonna be a little sauce in the reply. I get that.
Okay, okay.
I get that. It's
That's
like
cool.
it's
Yeah.
being on the ball court. Yo, I'm gonna break your ankle, son. And I
Fair
get
enough.
that. Yeah, cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
Absolutely. No
fam,
problem.
I'm a drug addict now. Really?
Right.
But
And
anyway,
here's the crazy thing about it though, and to your point, I really don't mind jokes. Like, I mean, I probably shouldn't even say this publicly, but sometimes like the Hebrews will get at me, or they make a meme or say something like. Sometimes it's funny. I really
yeah,
have no problem with that.
yeah,
As long as you're not talking about my wife and kids, I really don't care. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool. But the thing of it is, man, it's like I get there's going to be some hot sauce there, not a problem at all. But bring it back around to the information. You know what I'm saying? Don't just declare yourself an authority on Hebrew and then just dismiss what everybody says. Like, yo, if someone makes an argument, do you due diligence and pose a counter argument? It's just that simple. And I think, oh, this is what I was trying to get to. And I know we got to close out, but here's the thing: real rap. Like as black men in America, I mean, for goodness sake, you can turn on any television channel at any given time and see disparaging images perpetrated on our community by popular media. We're always the thug in every show. We're always the
right,
drug addict,
right,
homosexuals. Like it's always some sort of negative, something. You know what I mean? And what I'm saying is, with all this negative imagery, uneducated, whatever it may be, we don't need to add to the mix. So when it comes to public platforms that we control, i.e., a YouTube platform that maybe this or that person would have, like we need to stop being about the business of doubt, like just degrading each other. Like we get enough of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, the music, you know what I'm saying? We think about the music that's as much as I love hip hop as a genre, we haven't done a good job at protecting our image through hip hop. I'm saying we've allowed the powers that be, in terms of the music business, to dictate how we portray ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We played into that. So I'm saying, when are we gonna stop doing that? So
right.
in others, I said it to say, if you disagree with a brother, don't make allegations that he's smoking K2 in front of the bodega. You know what I'm saying? Bro, we getting that already. We get enough of that. We don't
right,
need more of that.
right,
Come
right.
on, man. Let's
Absolutely.
be men, man. Let's be men and have real conversations, though. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm trying to
No,
say.
facts, facts. And lastly, just want to bring this up. So there's a particular slide he has, and
Mm.
I'm assuming he's doing some sort of Google image search looking for an image of me, which is fine. The issue I have though, there's another individual here, um, to your lower left. So that's my dad, and my dad just passed this year. And I'm not saying that he did this on purpose, though. I find it kind of interesting that during this image search, my dad would pop up because I never really talk about my dad on social media. The last time was announcing his funeral. So I'm not saying he did it on purpose, but I got to be honest. I didn't appreciate seeing my dad on your show. I didn't. So you want to use my image? Fine. You have been doing that, and I had no issue with it. But just so you know, this is my dad who passed. And we're still having, we're going through our first holidays without him. We just had Mother's Day. This is our first Mother's Day without him. Father's Day is coming. This is gonna be my first Father's Day without him. You know what I mean? So whatever we're doing, that's one thing. But just next time you see his picture, I would appreciate it, Shaka, that you don't show it. All right. So I just wanted to share that with you. So
That's real rap, man. I mean, obviously my condolences again, with your passing of your dad. I've experienced that. My dad passed away just a few years ago. So, I understand where you're coming from. And I think that it just illustrates maybe a more important point that we should be responsible with our platforms. Saying like whether we agree or disagree on whatever point, and that's Christians and non-Christians. You know what I'm saying we need to be responsible and careful about how we use our platforms. You know what I'm saying because I think that there's a place that we just not ought not to go. You know what I'm saying people who claim to be woke, intelligent, sophisticated, whatever it is whatever word you want to use, there's just places we shouldn't go. You know what I mean? And I think that it would be a mark of integrity on his part um, if he were to, take that clip out. You know what I'm saying? I think that that would be, the right thing to do from an integrity standpoint. Whether he'll do it or not, I don't know. That's what I would do. But, I
And
just think
again,
that
I am not saying that he went out of his way to do it. All right,
sure, sure,
guys.
sure, sure. Right, right.
It might have just been random. You know what I mean? But I just want him to know from here on out, if it does come up again, I would appreciate it. Regardless how you feel about me, Shaka, I would appreciate it as just man to man that you don't do that. So that's all. So, but that's it, guys. And now the door can remain open. And here's the condition I was talking about in the beginning. The condition is stop calling us liars.
That's a pretty low bar, bro. Just stop calling us
Yeah.
liars. I think like we set the bar pretty low. You know what I mean? It's
If
not difficult to do that, right?
if
Yeah.
you're willing just to say that we're dumb and stupid, we might continue. But the line, I'm done with the lying thing, bro. Like, and thank you everybody for the condolences. That I definitely appreciate it. Thank you very much. Um, I'm done with this. I, listen, the, the people that know me, how I get down, I let a lot of things slide. It's the lying thing that gets me, bro. Because we're no longer having an academic theological discussion. Once you do that, we've taken a left turn somewhere. Once you do that, and I'm like, why are we doing that? Like, let's not let's stay with what we're talking about. Because now when you're saying lying, we're having a completely different conversation that you're not equipped to have because you don't know me. And you had the opportunity and you still do. Listen, I might not do no more videos to respond, but the coffee still stands. The coffee still stands. You ever want to get up, we meet Midtown Manhattan, we go get some tea, some coffee, and we get to know each other. Like for real, for real. So that hopefully you can see where my heart is. And it's not here to pull a wool over your eyes, Shaka. It's just not. Or anyone else in these communities. And I think I can speak for all of us in saying that that's not the intent. That's not the agenda. But you know what? I'm going to tell you the agenda. Ready? I'm going to expose the whole UA. Ready? This is the agenda. We want everybody to go to heaven. We want all of you to be our brother and sisters in the faith. That's the
Absolutely.
agenda. That's the we're plotting and scheming for you to be in paradise forever. That's what that's the agenda.
It's facts.
And you hate us for that. That's amazing. It's amazing. But anyway, but that's it, guys. I don't know if he'll respond. I don't, I have no idea. But I'm on record saying what we said. MJ, not MJ. Well, MJ's in the chat. Big up to MJ. Adam, he said what he needed to say. In fact, Adam, before we wrap it up, do you have any last things you wanna say before we get out of here?
Not a whole lot, man. I guess I would just say that at the end of the day, really more so to the Christian community. We need to continue to press forward, doing it what it is that we do with honor, like that. Like we need to make sure that regardless of how other people respond to you, disrespect you or whatever, we need to be about that life of really being like Christ, man. I'm saying and continue to do that. I think that we do a good job as a community as far as the UA is concerned. Like, I mean, people that I see. Let me clarify. The people that I see, which would be the UA, when I'm in y'all's threads and seeing y'all respond to people, like I see people being mad respectful, and I think that's dope. Like, we need to keep it like that. I think we do a great job.
Yeah.
And we above all, it's not about winning arguments. Like we're really trying to win souls to Christ. And it's really hard to do that when you're not acting like Christ would act. So we just kind of need to keep that in mind. As far as Shaka is concerned, like I don't really have a whole lot to say other than I'm always down for being challenged on claims that I make. I'm always down for examining claims and objections that other people make when they're substantive ones, and just talking about the information. I'm always up for that. But I'm kind of with you, man. Like when it comes to like the mudsling type stuff, and just like if I can't sit down and listen to your video about me, or somebody that I ride with, without 10 to 15 insults, like I just it's not interesting. I think it's intellectually is beneath us as a community, and I think that we need to stop that. You know what I mean? We got to cut that out. As a community, we owe the community more than that. Regardless of what you think about Christians, regardless of what you think about us, we can all agree that our community is not where we want it to be. We can all agree on that, and it's not going to get us there by nipping and biting at each other with insults. That's not going to get it done, regardless of what your worldview is. Like I think we can all agree on that. You know what I mean? So, I just say grow up, man. Cats need to grow up, and when they do, we'll be waiting. We'll be ready. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's just kind of where we need to keep it at.
And that, I think, is a great way to end the show. So, True ID and BK signing off. Peace.